comes to celebrity love stories, few have sparked as much intrigue, debate, and endless speculation as the relationship between Gerald Anderson and Julia Barretto. From their on-screen chemistry that quickly spilled into real life, to the swirling rumors that followed them at every turn, their journey has been anything but ordinary. But how did two stars with so much chemistry and talk of marriage end up making headlines for a shocking split in 2025?
When you say that when you've hurt someone, you're admitting that you hurt.
Of course.
Was it simply the pressure of fame? Or were there deeper cracks beneath the surface? In this video, we'll unravel the timeline of their relationship, from the moment fans first noticed the spark to the controversies that haunted them, the public declarations of love, and finally, the surprising end that left everyone talking. Along the way, we'll look at what was confirmed, what was only rumored, and what these twists reveal about the fragile balance between love and public life. But to understand why their breakup stunned so many people, we have to rewind to where it all began. Back in 2019, Gerald Anderson and Julia Barretto were cast together in the romantic drama Between Maybes. On screen, their chemistry was undeniable.
Hoy, excuse me, kung akala...
The kind that makes fans wonder if something more might be happening when the cameras stop rolling. Almost immediately, whispers began circulating that their connection wasn't just acting. Gerald had recently come out of a high-profile relationship with Bea Alonzo, and the overlap in timelines led to accusations that Julia might have been involved in the split. Social media became a battleground of opinions, with some fans defending the pair, while others accused Julia of breaking up one of Showbiz's most followed couples. Julia and Gerald both denied those claims, but the controversy had already left a mark. For Julia, this was a turning point. Once known primarily as a rising star from the Barretto clan, she suddenly found herself at the center of heated online debates. Gerald, on the other hand, was no stranger to public scrutiny, but this particular storm put him in a defensive spotlight once again. Their pairing in Between Maybes wasn't just another project. It became the origin point of a story that would follow them for years. After all, if the chemistry was this strong in a single film, what would happen if it carried into real life? And as it turned out, that question would only grow louder in the years to come. And that question didn't take long to find an answer. By 2021, the speculation surrounding Gerald and Julia finally reached a breaking point. After years of dodging rumors, both stars decided to go public and confirm what many fans had suspected all along. They were officially together. The announcement changed everything. What had once been whispered about in tabloids was now front and center, and both Gerald and Julia seemed more comfortable showing glimpses of their life as a couple. Public appearances became more frequent, and the once guarded pair began speaking more openly about their feelings. Gerald described Julia as someone who grounded him, someone whose values helped him grow. Julia, in turn, often spoke about stability and how she admired Gerald's maturity. For fans, this was a turning point. Supporters celebrated the couple for standing firm despite the backlash, while critics doubled down on past accusations. They were invited to interviews as a couple, included in power pair lists, and even hinted at long-term plans.
How was the experience shooting together? You know, with each other?
Oh my God.
Okay lang.
Suddenly, the story wasn't just about how they began. But where they were headed. And for a while, it looked like that destination might just be forever. But just when things seemed to settle into a picture of stability, the whispers came back, louder and more relentless than ever. The very visibility that once validated Gerald and Julia's relationship now became the same lens through which people dissected every detail of their lives. Fans began noticing subtle changes. Julia was posting fewer photos of Gerald, and their once public moments grew noticeably rare. In the world of celebrity culture, silence often speaks louder than words, and speculation spread like wildfire. Was something wrong? Or were they simply trying to protect their privacy? Gerald, never one to shy away from addressing rumors, tried to calm the storm. In interviews, he reassured everyone that they were okay and brushed off the gossip as nothing more than the price of living in the spotlight. What fueled the fire even more was the couple's history. Because their relationship began under controversy, every pause or absence seemed like proof to critics that the skeptics had been right all along. Supporters defended them, arguing that every couple deserves moments away from the glare of cameras. Yet the cycle of rumor and denial only made the story more addictive to the public. And while Gerald's reassurances bought them time, they also set the stage for an even bigger question. What were their real long-term plans? The answer, at least publicly, came in the form of bold declarations about marriage and forever. Promises that would keep fans invested in what came next. And that question? What comes next? Soon got an answer that reignited excitement among fans. Gerald began to open up about the future in ways he never had before. In interviews, he spoke candidly about marriage, about wanting to settle down, and how he was close to that stage of life. For many, it was a sign that his relationship with Julia wasn't just a passing romance, but a serious commitment.
Future family man, as a partner, as a person in general.
Julia, for her part, echoed that sentiment in her own way. While she was often more guarded in her words, she made it clear that she valued stability, maturity, and building a life rooted in trust. Whenever she was asked about Gerald, she emphasized how much she admired his growth and how grounded he had become. Together, their words painted the picture of two people not just in love, but actively working towards something lasting. Fans latched on to this narrative. After all the controversies, here was a chance for redemption. A love story that had endured storms and was now pointing toward a happy ending. Social media buzzed with questions. When would Gerald propose? Was Julia already planning her future as Mrs. Anderson? Even entertainment outlets began to frame them as one of the industry's most promising couples, a pair that had survived public opinion and come out stronger. Yet with every hopeful statement, expectations grew. And with expectations came pressure. Suddenly, their every move was analyzed through the lens of, are they preparing for marriage? If Julia posted a cryptic quote, speculation ran wild. If Gerald was spotted without her, rumors resurfaced instantly. The dream of forever was both a blessing and a burden. It gave fans something to look forward to, but it also intensified the scrutiny in ways that made privacy nearly impossible. And as the fairy tale image reached its peak, subtle cracks began to show. Cracks that hinted the road ahead might not be as smooth as it seemed. Because just as marriage plans became the talk of the town, new signs of distance began to creep in. But as the excitement over possible wedding bells grew louder, so did the uneasy signs that not everything was as perfect as it appeared. Fans, always quick to notice details, began pointing out that Julia was less present on Gerald's social media, and the sweet public gestures that once defined their relationship seemed to fade. For some, this was nothing more than a natural shift toward privacy. But for others, it was evidence that something bigger was happening behind closed doors. The absence of visible affection sparked a flood of rumors. Online gossip pages speculated about tension, distance, and even the possibility of a third party. None of these claims were ever confirmed, but in the world of celebrity relationships, speculation can sometimes overshadow fact. The more Julia pulled back from sharing glimpses of their romance, the more convinced critics became that trouble was brewing. Gerald tried to push back against these narratives. In interviews, he firmly reassured the public that they were fine, dismissing rumors as noise that came with fame. "We're okay," he would say. Short, direct, but not enough to silence the endless chatter. In fact, his attempts to calm speculation sometimes had the opposite effect, with skeptics insisting he was covering up cracks in their relationship. Adding to the tension was the weight of expectation. Because Gerald had spoken openly about marriage, every lull in their public presence became magnified. Was the wedding still on the horizon, or had the plan quietly unraveled? Julia's cryptic posts and quiet demeanor only added fuel to the fire, leaving fans torn between hope and doubt. What made matters worse was the couple's history. Since their love story had begun amid controversy, critics were quick to resurface old accusations and frame their struggles as inevitable. Supporters, on the other hand, argued that the pair deserved privacy, urging others not to confuse silence with separation. But even as fans debated, one truth became clear. The fairy tale image of Gerald and Julia was starting to fracture. And soon enough, the rumors would give way to something far more definitive. An announcement that would shock everyone watching their story unfold. And then, the speculation ended, replaced by confirmation that nobody was truly prepared for. On September 18th, 2025, Gerald Anderson's agency, Star Magic, released an official statement. Gerald and Julia had mutually decided to end their relationship. Within hours, Julia's management, Viva Artists Agency, echoed the announcement, emphasizing that the decision was mutual and asking the public to respect their privacy. After years of rumors, denials, and hopeful talk about forever, the story had finally reached its most shocking chapter. The impact was immediate. Fans flooded social media with heartbreak, disbelief, and endless theories about what might have gone wrong. Some mourned the end of a love story they had invested years in following, while others quickly revived old accusations, pointing to past controversies as if they had predicted this outcome all along. The breakup didn't just make headlines, it dominated them. What struck many observers was the tone of the official announcements. Both agencies were careful, almost protective in their wording. There were no accusations, no finger-pointing, and no dramatic explanations. Instead, the language highlighted mutual respect and the desire to move forward quietly. It was a stark contrast to the loud speculation that had surrounded their romance from the very beginning. Still, silence often leaves space for questions, and questions quickly turned into rumors. Some insisted there had to be a hidden reason, whether distance, differences in priorities, or the pressure of constant public attention. Others speculated about third parties, drawing from earlier gossip, though neither Gerald nor Julia ever confirmed such claims. Yet beyond the noise, what remained undeniable was the gravity of the moment. This wasn't just another celebrity breakup. It marked the end of one of the most talked about relationships in Philippine showbiz, a pairing that had endured both love and controversy in equal measure. And while the breakup was now official, it didn't mean the story was finished. If anything, the aftermath only set the stage for deeper questions. What was fact? What was rumor? And what did this all mean for two stars who had once promised forever? But even with the official breakup confirmed, the story didn't end there. Because in the absence of clear answers, speculation only grew stronger. Fans, bloggers, and entertainment outlets all scrambled to piece together their own versions of what really happened, blurring the line between fact and rumor. One of the biggest talking points was Julia's sudden quietness on social media. Long before the official split, eagle-eyed followers noticed she had stopped sharing photos with Gerald, which some took as a silent clue of trouble in paradise. Others claimed the actress had been posting cryptic quotes that hinted at heartbreak. Yet, None of these theories were ever acknowledged by Julia herself, leaving the true meaning up for interpretation. There were also persistent rumors about third-party involvement. Whispers that someone outside the relationship might have caused strain. These claims made their rounds in online gossip circles but were never supported by concrete evidence. In fact, both Gerald and Julia's management teams carefully avoided giving details, reinforcing that their decision was mutual and private. Still, for many fans, the lack of explanation only fueled curiosity. On Gerald's side, the narrative wasn't much clearer. His earlier statements about wanting marriage now clashed with the reality of the breakup, raising questions about whether priorities had shifted or if outside pressures had played a role. Was it truly a mutual decision, or was one person more ready to walk away than the other? This is where celebrity culture often complicates the truth. In the eyes of the public, every silence becomes suspicious, and every vague statement feels like confirmation of a rumor. Yet when looking strictly at the facts, all we really know is that Gerald and Julia chose to part ways and asked for understanding. Everything else, the supposed third parties, the hidden fights, the secret reasons, remains unverified. And perhaps that's what makes this chapter so compelling. It's not just about what happened, but about what we may never fully know. And while the unanswered questions keep fans talking, the real intrigue lies in what their story says about love, fame, and the cost of living under constant public scrutiny. And maybe that's the most important point of all. Because beyond the rumors, beyond the endless online debates, and beyond the headlines that never seem to stop, Gerald Anderson and Julia Barretto's relationship shows us just how heavy the weight of public love can be. Their story wasn't just about two people trying to build a future together. It was about doing so while the world watched, judged, and speculated every step of the way. For some fans, their journey will always be remembered as a romance that survived countless storms before quietly reaching its end. For others, it's a cautionary tale about how fame magnifies every flaw and every silence. But whatever side you take, one thing is undeniable. Their love story captured the nation's attention and kept people talking long after the credits rolled. And as both move forward separately, the real question lingers. What comes next for Gerald and Julia? And how will this chapter shape the stories they tell from here? If you enjoyed diving into this story, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps more people discover the video. And if you don't want to miss the next upload, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you're always the first to catch the next big story.